Okay, that's good morning. This is Mike here. I want to talk to you about marking knives because we're having a sale on a couple of marking knives that I think are really, really special. So let me just talk real briefly about why would you use a marking knife. So a marking knife is used to help you lay out precision joinery. And what makes it so precision is you can actually just scribe a very thin line and you have a nice reference for your layouts. Another thing that's important is you can actually use this line, because it's not just a line, it's an actual physical mark in the wood, and you can actually register chisel right in that line. So if you're paring to a line, you can actually do a much more precise job. Like this here, I don't know if you can see this, but there's actually, I laid out a mortise there. I could actually drill out that mortise, then I could pare down, and then when I do my last little pare, I can just drop my chisel right in that knife line, and then I can pare down to a very, very precise dimension. And so just kind of a way of reference, whenever I draw lines with the grain, I try to use a wheel marking gauge. That works best. And then anything across the grain, I would use a marking knife. And also, if you want to try to pare to or cut a slot that's like at the same width as this board, I could lay this on top of my piece here, and then I could draw a line on each side, and that would give me a reference mark, and then I could actually remove the material between those two lines. So it's very precise. You can also transfer lines when you're doing dovetails. So a couple things that I like in a marking knife. I like to have the blade I like the cutting edge to be straight. You don't want a curved edge on the front here. And also I like the blade to be a certain width and a certain thickness. If it's too thin here, then when you're trying to register it against your work, it can inject some inaccuracies in there. You don't want that. And if it's too thick, then you're going to have a hard time getting into thin spaces, like between thin dovetails. So that's some of my criteria. Just by way of reference, I just got my Fine Woodworking magazine in the mail, and look at that front cover. There's a guy using a marking knife laying out some houndstooth dovetails. So this is a very ubiquitous tool in the wood shop. So a couple of things to remember or different types of marking knives. This is what I call double bevel. Our marking knife, it's got a bevel on each side, it's flat on the back, and it's got a bevel here. So you can actually take this and you could strike a line. You could lay this flat edge against your square here and strike a line on one side. And if you want to strike a line on the opposite side of the square, you just flip your knife 180 and you can strike the other side. This was made from a kit from Nerix, makes a kit, and it was a real nice project. But I made this myself. Here's a real cheap Chinese one, same thing, double bevel, thin blade, 1/16 of an inch. This is made by gauging. The steel's pretty bad on this one, but it's pretty cheap. Here's the one that has a thinner blade, which is too thin, which I don't think works. This is like a chip carving knife. I've tried that. It doesn't work so good. Here's another chip carving knife. This one's interesting in that the bevel is actually, the entire blade is beveled on each side. So when you lay this against your work, you just lay the whole thing against there, tip it just a little bit. There's a real flat reference surface, and you can actually scribe right next to a piece there. Here's one by Hawk. This is the same thing. It's got the whole bevel. This whole thing is beveled. And then you can lay this against your work and scribe. It's pretty expensive. This handle's pretty clunky. I don't really like it. It was about a $50 knife though when I bought it. So fairly expensive. You could use a box cutter, but in a pinch, but not necessarily the best thing to use. Here's a leather cutting knife. This has got a really thin blade, which I don't like because it doesn't register well against the work. And it's got a double bevel, so I have to tip it real weird to get it to ride against my piece. But it's a nice knife, but it's just not good as a marking knife. Here's one I made, a double bevel one I made from a kit from Macabre. I'm still working on it. It's a piece of ebony, and it will be a real nice knife, but a little more work, but it works. You can use an X-Acto knife. They work, but they are real thin blade, not really good for reaching very far, for using it for thicker woods. You can also use an awl. I've used an awl before. Just scratches the surface. It can work, but it's not ideal. So kind of my favorite of all marking knives is this baby right here. Swan Morton. Swan Morton is a surgical blade and handle manufacturer. They make scalpels. And so I guess I figure if they can make a scalpel that can correct the aneurysm of my brainstem, then I think they probably can make a good marking knife, which they did. This is in their craft line, and this is fantastic. This is highly recommended by Paul Sellers in the UK, a UK woodworker, And that's where I found out about it. And since then, I've been carrying them, and I love them. Blade's the right width here. It's got a straight edge here. It's the right thickness. It's not too thin. It does flex a little, but not as much as you'd think, and I can get it in narrow spaces. This is one that's a cast handle. It comes apart in two pieces, and the blade slips between them. And inside there's some storage. You can hear that. And then there's another version that's a retractable version where you can get the blade out of there. So if you put it in your pocket, you don't give yourself a vasectomy. So something to keep in mind when you change the blade, this blade has to be a certain way. If it doesn't fit in there, it won't work. You have to flip the blade 180 degrees. It's really designed to be held like this, so that this thing's on the left side, and I guess it's made for, almost seems like it's made for a right-handed person, which it's unfortunate. But nonetheless, if the blade doesn't go in, you can flip it around. We also sell a kit right here. It has 5 blades and screws to make 5 marking knives. And I made some here. Here's one made out of cherry. Same one. And if you go to our website, at the very bottom of the page, there's a little link to a little tutorial, short little how-to on how to make these. And then this one here is the same thing out of bloodwood. I think you do need like a 9mm router bit, which we sell on our website, and like a 3/8 Forstner bit right here to drill for that little screw. But this is a fantastic kit. Works really great. Oh, here's a couple by Stanley. These are by Stanley. And this is a blade that you have to buy and replace when it gets dull. But this is a Stanley knife. And the nice thing about this one is you can actually retract it, so it just kind of folds, folding knife. This one here is the UK version. These are not available in the US. But the nice thing about that is, look at that. The Swan Morton blade. That's what they use for the Stanley knife in the UK. So there you have it. So we have these kits. Oh, another thing, every knife you have here is going to get dull. It's going to get dull eventually. So you got to either sharpen them or find a way to replace the blade. And that's the beauty of the Swan Morton, is because you can take, when the blade gets dull, you just pitch it and you get a new one. And you can buy blades in packs of 50, which I bought this box literally 10 years ago. And I just looked in there the other day and there's one left. So I used the whole box. It lasted me that long. Or you can buy it a pack of 5. It comes in this super cute telescoping blade holder. So you can store those. We sell them in packs. This one here is retractable, and it comes with 5 blades and a little pack here. The little telescoping case. This is a regular cast one. Comes in a pack with a pack of 5 blades. Once again, you can get a little kit to make 5 knives. You can get a pack of 50 blades. So, perfect time to pick up a marking knife to improve your woodworking.